Welcome back, Rankers. Big week. A lot of you had problems last week in Australia and New Zealand, I know, with Google Analytics. Apparently, Google Analytics was flatlining for a lot of people in Australia, not us, and not a bunch of other Australians I've spoken to about their analytics since then either. But certainly, there was a large section of people in this region that had their Google Analytics showing, first of all, no data, and then, of course, Google Analytics had to shut down for maintenance for about half a day, I think it was. So, seems to be all back to normal now. Haven't heard any other complaints. But one of the things I am expecting to see today, though, just keep an eye out here, because any second now, and I'm expecting to see Warcom and his staff do a nudie run past the windows. Now, some people have said, won't that get us censored by Stephen Conroy? But I think if they put body paint on saying filter this Conroy, it should be fine. So just waiting now for Paul and his staff to run past in the nude. And whilst we're talking about Stephen Conroy, you may remember we've been following the site stephen-conroy.com, which was stephenconroy.com.au, and we talked about the redirection that they could have done, which would have helped them. Anyway, they put that redirection in place, and it helped them, as we saw. It got them to about 5th spot. Well, they still hadn't put the H1 in. Well, now they've done the H1, and look where they've moved to. They've moved to 2nd and 3rd place for the search Stephen Conroy, and if I go to the pages from Australia, it should be the same result, because they're hosted in Australia. Very good. So now you've got the Senator's homepage, or the Minister for Broadband's homepage here. That's the government page. And then directly below that, you've got Stephen Conroy, satire site, Minister for Fascism, and also at number 3. Okay, so that shows you what the value of adding H1s. And if you go and actually have a look at that site, you can see this before, this bit of text here, that was actually in the graphic. Now he's put it as a H1 separate to the graphic. So that is worth, 3 spots in a competitive space at the top of the page. So, one to watch out for. Okay, Google, I know they say they do no evil, but right now, I think they're being just a little bit evil. And to give you an idea of that, this is one of our clients, Google Webmaster Tools site performance. And when you see a graph like this, it's not great. But I'm going to get to the evil bit about Google in a second. But when you see a graph like this, that means your site is pretty erratic, and it's running pretty slowly. So when I say erratic, as far as speed and performance is concerned. And you can see here Google's saying that it's taking 6.2 seconds to load. Well, that's slower than 81% of the sites that Google looks at. And when that happens over a consistent basis, Google's going to drop you like a stone, as they did with this site. They basically just disappeared from the top 50 in Google for all its keywords. And a couple of reasons that it was happening is that it's the hosting company where they were hosting is in the US. So they're actually faster in the US, but they were slower here in Australia. So that was an issue. That isn't always the case, but certainly, I think I'd be hosting closer to home most of the time these days. And the other thing is that because it was hosted overseas and it was slower, the reasons it was slower is that it was not only the hosting, but the way the site had been built. It was trying to go out and grab a lot of different things, a lot of different scripts were running in the background that really didn't need to be running. And it was a Joomla site, and the developer had put in all these add-ons. And the problem with that is that each one of those add-ons had its own piece of JavaScript. So I had to download all the JavaScript and execute all the JavaScript. And so the whole thing was very, very slow. So we're in the process now of taking that site back into an Australian hosting system, got rid of all the JavaScript that the developer put in, and we would expect to see that come back. In fact, we've already seen one of the phrases come back over the last couple of days. So if you do fall out of the index, it could be your speed, so watch that. And the other thing that to get it back, it shouldn't take that long. So just keep an eye on that. And Lucas has just arrived. Hi, Lucas. And finally today, evil. Google being evil. See this here? This is Google telling us that this page here, administrator/index.php, is running too slow. Well, it is, but Google, it's none of your business because that URL is by default in the robots.txt of every Joomla installation out there. So that means Google's going and grabbing that page and crawling that page, which it actually shouldn't. And we've seen Google disobey robots.txt repeatedly over the last 3 months. Once again, since they launched their live Twitter search feed. I don't know if the two are linked, but there you go. And finally today, just a quick question from Michael Gladkoff, who wants to know that he's trying to get a link from a .edu site he has access to on a blog. And one of the things he's asked is it worthwhile getting a link from that if you actually have to log in to read the blogs? And the answer to that question is no, it's not worth getting a link, because if you have to log in to actually read the blogs, chances are the Googlebot isn't going to get past that. There are exceptions to that where some publishing companies would have let the Googlebot through, but nobody else, so Google can come and spy to the information. But that doesn't really work anymore because a lot of people are a bit tricky when it comes to behaving like the Googlebot. So, Michael, in answer to your question, if you can't see it without logging in, then Google's probably not going to be able to see it, so it's probably not worth it. And just waiting for... It's not here. Just waiting for Walk-On to run past him and nud, but looks like he wussed out. And we'll see you next week. Thanks very much. Bye.